Okay, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to challenge my navigation skills. I have trouble finding the bathroom in the morning, so this could be tricky. We're going to okay, let's set that properly. We're going to take off from Niagara Falls International Airport on the Canadian side of the border and then fly down to the falls itself. That means I've got to fly pretty much straight west and not miss something a mile wide. There are no guarantees in this life, I'll tell you that. The interesting thing is I just bought this Piper J3 65 horse plane for flight sim, and I've always loved these. This was the safest plane in the world. It could just barely kill you. But you could be flying against the wind and watch cars pass you on the highway below. It flew low, it flew slow, and it taught tens of thousands of people to fly between 1939 and 1970 or whenever it fell out of use. So let's see. This would be cooler if I had a student pilot's head in front of me blocking my view, but this is all right. You had to fly the J3 Cub from the rear seat. Later versions of the Cub let you fly it from the front. A friend of mine has a J3 Cub, and he's got it on floats too, and I'd love to take a ride in it, but I'm afraid the two of us together would make it way, way overweight. I think we'd have to take 10% fuel, which would not be good. Oh, there you know. There you know. There you go. Niagara Falls, 2.73 miles away. Well, I just can't get over how great things look in VR on the PImax Crystal. And I'm looking forward to trying standalone mode. We've got that in the latest beta software and firmware, but I haven't downloaded a game onto the headset yet to try it with. And I've got to charge up my hand controllers because as a sim guy, I never use them, but I do want to test this. And I am in PImax OpenXR rather than Steam XR right now. I've been fooling around with the Steam version of XR for a couple of weeks. And you know, it's not bad. It's not bad. But there are things that it seems to, every so often it'll crash on me if I try to change things in flight. It just goes, what just happened here? I'm going to hide under a rock. That was actually me in grade 8. It was a tough year. But and also it doesn't handle dynamic foveated rendering, and I want to test that too. So if I want to do that in Flight Sim 2020, I've got to use PImax OpenXR and Matt's OpenXR toolkit, which is fine. I mean, it's the most efficient solution anyway, I think. Now, well, that can't be Niagara Falls there. That's just a bridge. I mean, it could be, but I don't see any fall-like activity there. I don't see any water. I don't see any falling. But it does look like there's a hole in the middle of the bridge and you can see through it to the water. Oh, maybe not. That's 2 lanes of traffic. Duh. Well, I never promised you that I was the smartest guy in VR, did I? And if you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know that's not a claim I would dare make. But I do enjoy it, and I do enjoy sharing this hobby with you. I like trying out new airplanes. And this Cub feels light. It feels, quite like I think it should. I've never flown a Piper Cub, but I've flown an ultralight that's similar to it, a Norseman 2, and of course I owned a Luscombe 8F, which is a little bit heavier and stressed to take more G and had a bigger engine. But I mean, it kind of feels like that, actually, except I think the Luscombe rolled a little better. But this is a very gentle airplane to fly. Even if you're a little bit ham-handed, you're not going to get into too much trouble with it. Of course, any airplane can kill you. So can any car. Heck, you can get killed walking down the street. I knew a fellow who was hiking and he slipped and hit his head, and that was it. It was bloody tragic, is what it was, but you just never know. So, carpe diem, my friends. Seize the day. Find some moment of joy in everything you do and every day that you live. Into each life. I said the Bible that tells us this, some rain must fall. And we all have our ups and downs, and we all have tragedies to deal with in life and triumphs. And maybe the trick is just to try and stay interested in the world. Try and stay relevant. That's sort of my ambition, since I retired. I was really sad to retire. I did not want to retire. I loved my job. I wanted to keep doing it till I was 70, but my body decided no. So then I had to find other things that could keep me interested, keep me from following my wife around the house and telling her how to do a better job, which thankfully I was too smart to do. I'm not real smart, but I'm smart enough not to do that. Plus, she just retired too. I think we've got some strange artifacting here, he said, changing the subject. I just want to fool with graphic settings for a bit, because I'm seeing some weird stuff in the falls. And I don't mean somebody jumping over in a barrel. So let's set some graphic settings here. We'll set them in Flight Sim 2020 first. I've got that on balanced. Let's set it on fidelity sharpening. I'll set that right up. And we'll set that to quality. And terrain level of detail I'll set up to about 200. Okay, volumetric clouds I'm setting to low. Anisotropic filtering I'm leaving where it is. Apply and save. Let's see if this makes any difference at all. Okay, I see falls, but I don't see them falling. The scenery looks great. I mean, by bumping everything up, a couple of things have happened. One, I'm starting to get some shuddering, and my frame rate has dropped to about 30 frames per second. I don't see the water animated though. Gee, that's a little disappointing. I wonder if there's something I have to do. I mean, it's not like I can get out and tell it to start falling. Fall, darn you. Beautiful falls. Stationary falls. That's irritating. Well, if you've flown over the falls in Flight Sim, and it's worked for you, tell me what your settings are. Because, gosh, I'm surprised that isn't animated. I was looking forward to seeing this huge deluge of water falling and great banks of mist coming up off the water. Such is life. Let's do a little cruising over here. I mean, it looked pretty, right? It looked pretty. But there's no animation. Very, very disappointing. Okay, why won't you show me the VR map? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Wow, it looks good, huh? You know, you can't beat that photogrammic scenery. It's just astonishingly good. Let's see if I can get a better view. I want to fly east and go back to the airport. So what else is coming up on the channel? Well, I'm going to be reviewing, or at least doing a video on testing the standalone mode. And I am going to pause this and change the settings back in Flight Sim because it's driving me crazy. It's just driving me nuts to have it stuttering like that. Let's go. Let's make a couple changes here too. Well, that's set about as low as I want to go. Okay, well, we'll just get out of that. Down, 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 left. And we'll try setting things in here. Fidelity sharpening. I don't know if that really does any good. I'm going to turn that off. It might help a bit. And let's turn this to... Do I want to try DLA? NSXX. Well, how can it be DLA and DLSS? I don't know. Let's give it a try. Let's see what that does. You know, it's my theory of experimentation is poke it with a stick, hit it with a hammer, and if it breaks, tell PImax. Oh, no change there. Okay, that didn't do any good. It's pretty much the same. Let's go back and try it again. I'm always fooling around with this stuff. I don't know. DLAA. We'll just... You know, VR Flight Sim guy, Steve, he says that he gets the best results with TAA. But I really don't. I mean, that just kills my frame rate. Mind you, he's got a more powerful computer and a better bigger, fancier graphics card. Let's see how this works. I got a hunch I'm better off in DLSS, but let's see. Yeah, it's about the same. We'll see how it goes. You know I've got resolution turned down because The gauges are readable, but just barely. So let me mess about with this a little bit here. Let's go back to OpenXR, and I'm going to try turning it up a bit. I'm going to turn it up to 3500 by something, 3657 by 4327. Let's see how that works for us. I got to restart VR. Don't blame the OpenXR toolkit if you forget to restart it after making changes. Oh, nothing happened, man. Didn't do nothing. Well, read the directions. I say that because Matt gave me hell for it in the Discord today. Okay, so yeah, things are a little bit easier to read. Maybe not as much as I'd hoped. Yeah, no, it's not quite as good as I'd hoped it'd be. No, I think we'll forget that, and we'll go back to the game. Render scaling resolution. Render scaling resolution. Let's set it up to something really high here and see what it does. It's probably going to absolutely throw the frame rate into the toilet. Because remember, friends, you're not dealing with a guy here who really knows what he's doing. I'm just an old fat man in a cruel world trying to have a little bit of fun. Yeah, look at that. 11 frames per second. And it doesn't really look any better. So let's go back. Well, you don't know if you don't try. But I think we could have predicted that outcome, couldn't we? Let's go to... I'll go to DLSS. And we'll go to quality, I think. Was that what I was on before? I think so. Reprojection mode is off. Doesn't play well with turbo mode. Is there anything we can turn up here? Objects level of detail. I don't know if that'll help or not. Let's try. Texture super sampling. I don't know, I'll just turn that down a hair. I'll turn this down a hair. Let's apply it. And we'll go back and resume. Okay, so now we're back to about 35 frames per second. And if I squeak in close, yeah, I can read it. But it's not the clearest thing. I think to really get clarity there, I'd need a little faster computer and maybe a 4090. And it could be an issue with the rendering too. I don't know. I really like this little J3 Cub, but I would like to find a setting that gives me a little more clarity on the instrument panel, but leaves me some frames to play with in terms of frames per second. Anyway. It's certainly flying smoothly enough. And the terrain and the landscape all looks good. Really good. I just can't get over the disappointment of Niagara Falls not actually falling. It's like Niagara Falls, the painting. Or maybe it's frozen. It gets pretty cold in Canada. Well, it doesn't get that cold. And I know my niece, who lives in Winnipeg, sent a video out to us in the family one year. It was something like 48 below in Winnipeg, and that's cold by any standard. And she had a jug of water, and she went outside, and she flung this water in the air, and it froze before it hit the ground. Yeet. That was some kind of scary. Well, so this has been a little joyride, a little virtual sightseeing in Flight Sim 2020 and the PImax Crystal and OpenXR, courtesy of Matt Buccianeri. I will say that Steam XR works pretty well, but I find I have a lot fewer problems with Matt's version, with his runtime and all that stuff. It seems to be a lot more trouble-free. So until they get a few more bells and whistles added into Steam's XR, I think I'd recommend staying with the PImax OpenXR runtime and, of course, Matt's OpenXR toolkit. If you've got a 3090 like me, it might only get you 5 more frames per second, but when you're hovering around 35 frames per second or less, as I am with my settings, those extra 5 frames per second can mean the difference between a fairly smooth flying experience and playing a board game. When you're just cruising around, it doesn't matter that much, but when you're trying to land in a crosswind, well, yeah, guess what? It's tricky. And it's hard to stay ahead of an airplane that keeps stuttering in front of you. I don't think the Cub has any rudder trim, but it's got so little power, I don't think it really matters. Pitch trim and fuel. Is that a vent? Oh, you can't actually use that thing. Alright. That's the throttle. Okay, we know that. We're going to join left-hand downwind here for 27. One thing I really love about Flight Sim 2020 is the ability to manipulate the amount of traffic you see. I don't know, I think it's just really cool that you can have real-life traffic. Now, there's a company working on a more realistic way of communicating with the tower, too. And I can't remember what they call it, but I actually emailed them begging and pleading to let me beta test. I said I would wash their cars. I drew the line at babysitting. I don't do babysitting, but I would wash their cars and cut their lawns and say nice things about them on YouTube, but I think they're a small company, and they were, too busy to pay much attention to me. I don't think Tower would like me doing this downwind on this side. In retrospect, I think I should have done it on the other side. That's what happens when you don't read the instructions. Okay, I don't have carb heat to put on. We're about a mile out from the runway. That's what I like. If you see the runway halfway down your strut and you're at 1,000 feet, you're about a mile out. Well, I just can't get over the scenery. It's amazing. So we'll fly out this ways a bit, and then we can start descending when we turn on base. And I don't think we're going to need a lot of room. I'm doing a little forward slip here to shed some altitude. And now we'll just smoothly, well, as smoothly as I ever get. Turn on to final. Slip a little bit more to the right. Get lined up. Oh, these are such cute little airplanes. They land so slow, it's a great way to start flying. It's just, I'm not quite on the center line, but it's good enough for an old fat man in a cruel world. So there's our little tourist flight from Niagara International to Niagara Falls and back, with some really nice scenery in between, and a minor disappointment that the waterfalls don't actually fall. But I'm trying to contain my disappointment. No, it's okay. Someday we'll have enough computing power to do that. Maybe there's a setting I don't know about. I don't know. But it was a little disappointing. Fly over Niagara Falls yourself in VR, or even not in VR, and tell me if it's animated. That would be cool. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed our little tour. And the Piper J3 65-horse Piper Cub. The airplane's so safe, it could just barely kill you. I really do love this airplane. Thanks for watching. We'll talk soon.